When you really break it down, a blog post needs to do two things. One, it must give your reader the information that they've come looking for. And two, it must make your reader want to see more of your content. And if you find yourself falling short on these 2 points, then your end goal, be it selling a product or service, informing on an issue, or driving people to your content, is not going to work as well as you'd want it to. So with that in mind, here are 5 ingredients that you should be using if you want your material to resonate with your audience, if you want it to be engaging and informative, and if you want them to read more of what you have to offer. But before we get into that, and if you're new, if you're here for the first time, then hit subscribe, hit the bell icon so you stay up to date with news, views, tips, tricks, tutorials, everything you need to further your game, which I release every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Let's get started. Number 1, consider your audience. Now this should sound obvious, but I still see a lot of people getting it wrong. Knowing your target audience, knowing who your target audience is marketing 101. We all know this, but yet I see posts all the time that is written in a way that the target audience just doesn't understand. Are you selling surfboards? Then write to surfers. Is your product aimed at board level strategy? Then write to strategists. Don't write a medical post aimed at patients that only doctors can understand. Number 2, narrative versus information. You're going to have to toss up how much information, how much story you're going to weave into an article. For example, you have a piece on conflict resolution in the workplace. But in order to make it not so stale and overburdened with information, you choose to create a couple of characters and have them play out a scene, thereby providing a practical illustration of how conflict resolution would work or should work in the workplace. And this is a great idea. I've used it to very good effect in the past. When I wrote the Fundaba articles for F&B, for example, which was over a year and a half, I did 12,500 articles and over 100 500-word articles. Now, the 12,500-word guys were mostly to get a feel for the character we were developing, whose story would then be told across those 100 plus 500-word articles, the shorter articles. And we chose story over information, but we still needed the information, so we split the articles. If you can't contain everything in one article, then split it into 2, split it into 3, split it into 4, and create a series. Make sure to leave a cliffhanger at the end and tell your reader that more is to come. Number 3, keep it simple. Your article will be easier to understand if you aim for the least amount of complexity. Is every word that you've used totally necessary? What can you trim out? The more complexity you add, the less your reader is going to understand and the harder they will have to work to read it. You will slow your text down and create distraction if you make it too complicated. Remember, your reader needs to get your message with the least amount of distraction. Number 4, be clear. Now that may sound the same as simple, but it is not. When you are clear, you make sure that your article is focused on the outcome. If you dress it up in fancy clothing, you will make the meaning unclear. Your concepts and your ideas must be portrayed as crisply as possible. Your concept must be portrayed as crisply as possible. If I read your post, I want to understand everything without questioning anything. Be so clear that there can be no doubt whatsoever about what your message is. And finally, number 5, be resonant. Now and again, you read something that resonates with you. It vibrates with meaning. You relate to it. In the same way, you may have read a book that someone has raved about and that just does nothing for you at all. Was the book overhyped? Possibly, but no, also not necessarily. Perhaps you just couldn't relate to it. Maybe the set of circumstances in the book meant very little to you in terms of who you are and what your experiences have been. So, creating an article that will make a person read it to the end is all about being resonant, about being relevant to that person. And deciding on whether or not something will tick another person's boxes is all about asking a simple question: what need does that person have that I can fulfill? This is the point in which you are going to start to bring emotion into your reading. You're going to want to trigger a response. Are you writing about a travel destination? Then what benefit would there be for your reader in going to that destination? You're not going to talk about the five-star service. You're not going to talk about the facilities nearly as much as you're going to talk about the need that's being fulfilled. Getting away from everything, finding time for yourself, recharging, refocusing, those are emotive and they speak volumes. So getting a good mix of these 5 ingredients means having a blog post that is easy to read, simple to understand, speaks your language, and brings you into the story. Imagine defining your writing success as knowing that you've struck a chord with someone else.